All right. How are we doing? We're gonna do some database stuff and well, with databases, the biggest thing is just connecting to them. So you have to have several things in order. You have to have your library. You got to have your library. That comes with Java, or that comes with it. So we got a SQL library already within the language, and then we need our drivers. We need our connection drivers. These are JDBC connection drivers. That's one of the links that I gave you for getting started up. And then here's what we need next to connect to a database is a connection string. Okay, connection strings are a real part of a big important part of programmatically connecting to databases. And there's actually a whole there's a whole database of connection strings. So you can go to and just search connection strings, and there's a website called connectionstrings.com, I believe is the one. I think that is the one. So you could go to any kind of database and language or language driver combo, and so that's where the connection string is important for. To connect, basically, it's for when you use a library to connect to your drivers and then also to the database. So connection string brings all that together, and you use it to connect to your database through your drivers in your library. So you can look at different kinds of connection strings that are available for different databases. What we're going to be using is the MySQL server database. And then we're going to be using a specific Java connection string that we will look into it starts with JDBC, the connection string itself, but I'll show you that portion of it as we get to it. But first, let's just talk about what a database is and what you're actually doing programmatically with a database. So you're using a library, drivers, and a connection string to connect to the database. Okay, so you can think about your program, over here is just doing its thing. You're at exe, this is your program, my program. And when you think about a database, it's basically just another program running over here. So this is a database executable or app, and this is it could be different vendors or whatever. And what it's doing is it's always just kind of listening in a loop that's going over and over and over again, and asking for some kind of connection or a command. And so when we connect to it through our connection string, once we make that connection with our drivers and our connection string, then we can start sending the database some commands. And what we do is we use the SQL language for that. Now, there's a lot of things that can happen is because we could actually have a text box that is used over here that people could put actual SQL code into and use SQL injection when we have this ability to directly send SQL commands to the database. We have some responsibilities that we have to deal with if we're getting user input, and then taking that user input and sending it to the database in some form. So they could take and just put SQL code in this text box, and instead of just a value that we would be sending to the SQL, we're sending a whole command, like give me all the files or all the information in the database. And that's SQL injection. We'll look into that just a little bit as a side note when we get into actually inserting things into the database. But the idea here is everything is done through that SQL language from your executable to the database executable, and that's just a regular string. And once we have our library drivers in connection to that database, we will use the SQL language to interact with it. So it's just a program that talks to another program using the SQL language. That's it. That's databases. What? No, it's a little bit more than that, Mr. B. Yeah, it is. So let's get into the first part of it. And what I want to take you through today is just connecting to it. Once you get it connected, you can use a lot of stuff from the book examples on actually working with the database. But most students have this is the biggest problem. And it was for me, knowing all the little things and parts that go together to get connected to a database and then how to manage that database. So what we're going to do today is we're going to actually use Windows Apache MySQL as a server. And when you bring it up, it's going to be, this is what I use in my, I got a class where we learn how to do our own server-sided programming where you can basically learn how to build your own Facebook. This is what we use in that class for a SQL server, because a lot of times when we access or we're web app programming, well, actually, when we're server-sided programming, the main thing that we want to have access to is a database. And here's the thing is with security and databasing, I don't want to get too of a side note. Let's get going on and talking about this WAMP. Okay, so WAMP, when you install it installs Windows, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. We're only going to be using the MySQL part of it, and we want the MySQL working. And you can left-click on this icon, guys, to get a menu. And you can also right-click on the icon to get a menu. And what this does is it'll allow you to kind of work around and kind of look at what your server's doing, what port it's running on, or your servers, what port they're running on, and you can also test them and just kind of see the general health. It also gives you this My PHP admin, which allows you to directly log into your SQL, your SQL server, and manage the SQL server through the web. So what I've done is I've started up WAMP, and I've got it going. All services are running, and I'm going to PHP My Admin. Now, no, we're not doing PHP, guys. This is just a PHP built page, server-sided page that allows us to directly manipulate our SQL server that we installed with WAMP. So the root, or when you actually log into this, when you install it, you send it root as a username, and you give it no password. And that's our username password that we're going to be using to access our SQL server. Okay, so we have WAMP installed. We have our drivers. We have we're going to be working with a connection string. We got our library with some example code. I have not put in a database in here yet. We're going to come back to this shortly so that I can put a database in it. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it right now. I'm going to go ahead and go up here to databases, and I'm going to go to create. We want the right character set with this. So anything that says UTF-8, UTF-8 is something that's more Englishy. UTF-8. Let's see. UTF-8. No, this stupid stuff just drives me insane. Because, it's like, come on. Okay, yeah. The heck with it. Let's just go with UTF-8 bin. That's fine. Okay. Let's call it Coffee DB. Do it with lower cases. I don't know. You can do it with uppercase if you really want to. But I just hit create and the table is created. So it's over here. I can manage it. I can add columns to it. I can send it SQL statements. I can create a table in the database for my database server. So I've just created the Coffee DB database. I have not added a table to it. Because the one thing that we're only trying to do with this video is get connected. That's what we're working towards. All right. So we have a database in our database manager. It's ready to go. We now need to have our program built up. And for that, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be refactoring today. Guys, by the way, whenever you build, something that's professional and, complete, you don't start your project with a copy of another project. But this is an excellent example to be cheap and easy and just use code that we've already developed, and also talk about refactoring. So we're gonna go ahead and break the rules. So I'm gonna go ahead and just one of the some of the video series that we've done so far. We've done a project called Game Piece Test. I'm gonna just take this and I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna paste it in the same folder, and then we're gonna have NetBeans manage the rest of it. Now I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna rename it DB Tools, Database Tools. So now I'm going to open up NetBeans. And we should have it update from that folder, or we just need to go in and actually open it. That's right. Okay, so we're going to go up and open that project that we just copied and renamed. So I'm going to go to my stupid overly deep in crazy amounts of folders project folder right here, and we called this did I even rename it DB Tools? Okay, so we're going to open the project. Now remember this, so this is going to be a little bit of an issue, because as soon as we open this project, it automatically we have another project name that's the same, even though the folder is different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a refactor of this. And what's nice about this is it'll catch a lot of things, but it does cause problems because it's stuff that you're not in control of, and when you're building a project from ground up, you don't really want to do this. However, it's good for learning about refactoring. So what we're going to do here is we want to be able to rename it, and then when we rename it, we'll be able to we'll call this DB Tools. I should have renamed the project folder, but I already did that, so that's fine. Now I'm going to go down here to the source packages, test packages, source packages, Game Piece Test. What we want is I want to get in my one of my files that we're going to be using, which is going to be, wow, it looks like we've got an issue. I've lost some files. That's fine. Let's get, you guys get your project going. Here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to this project, DB Tools, a main class, and then we'll get started on it. Okay. So what we can do here is just go to here, add new FX main class. Let's just do that. And we'll call this DB Tools main. I guess we're not refactoring today at all. There we go. Oh, it was stuck in my default packages. That's where I was looking for. Okay, that's fine. Just delete that one. I was like, where's all my files? GP's test is one I wanted. Okay, so this is the one that we're going to refactor. So I'm going to go ahead and it looks like usually you should be able to get a refactor, and that's going to be with like your packages. So I don't want this to be called DB test anymore. I want to rename that to be DB Tools. DB Tools package. Okay. And see, it renamed it DB Tools for me. I'm not going to be using these libraries though. That's why we're kind of doing this, is because I'm going to be bringing in another library or several other libraries that we're going to use. Let's just first look at what this is actually doing, and then eventually we're going to be adding a text box. Okay, so that's just for the animation. Let's get rid of, let's see. Let's get rid of this game piece. And that guy right there. And that guy. We're gonna add to this later. But let's just get a blank start so that we can start playing with our connection. We'll be adding a text box later. Okay, this is good enough for now. Now we're ready to add our database connectivity. And for that, we're going to actually just steal some code and modify it. Now, guys, a lot of this video is just about getting things to work. I'm not putting a lot of time into security here, but, well, let's just keep on point here. I don't want to get sidetracked on things. All right, so right here, chapter 15, our source code that we're going to be testing out is this one, test connection. That's the only one I want to get working. I just want to get a connection string going and be able to connect to a database server that I have locally on my machine. So let's go to our folder, DB Tools, and go into our source files, and let's put it into there. It looks like that is for, there's our library files. You know what? Let's just put it in there with our library files, and we'll add it into our package. Okay, so that's going to be there. Let's go back to NetBeans and see if it can see that test connection. And it can. I need to add the package DB Tools to it. Okay, so that's test connection. We're actually just turning into a library. But why screw with it too much? Yeah, let's just turn it into a library. We're going to call this send, and it's going to send an argument. And the argument is just going to be to connect. It's going to be our connection string. And guys, a lot of this is skill-based, so we're going to be figuring out what our connection string should be based on a few things that we get going. So this is going to be changed to the send string. So we're going to actually send it our connection string when we connect. And so right here is our send, our connection string. That's what this guy is here. This is our connection string. It's declaring the driver that we're using and the database that we want, or the database type that we're using. What is the database? What is the driver? And then the database name. So this we're going to be using MySQL, so this would be MySQL. And CoffeeDB is good, but we're going to do lowercase. And we're going to come up with this. This is actually going to change, guys, because we're doing this on a real live, like SQL server, one that you would make live to the web. So it's not going to be so nice and neat as this when we actually get kind of the local host type stuff going. So this is all we need. We need to, hey, make a connection, create a connection object based on our Java SQL. Once we make the connection, then we can start sending it SQL commands. And it's not until then that we actually get a successful connection that we can start playing around with those SQL commands. So this is where we're going to begin our testing. And, oh, it looks like send, that should be arg. Arg is coming in. That's a, you know what, let's call that C string. Oh, no, not C string, connection string. Let's call that connection string. All right, so what I want to do is I just want to actually test this. I've got to take the static out, though. And And now I can instantiate a test connection object and send it a connection string, and it'll connect for me and then give me an error, give me an output in the output console on whether or not it was successful or not. Connection string, okay, you stupid thing. And then this should be string. Okay, I think we're good. We're ready to start our test. Let's go back to our game piece Java, which I'm going to rename. Let's refactor it. Rename. So I went to rename, refactor, or refactor, rename. And then I'm going to call this DB tools test and refactor it. Okay, cool. I got a whole new project with an old project. I probably just would remove these. Guys, here's one little tip. Do not ever right click on anything and hit delete in NetBeans. I lost like 6 months of work and just abandoned a whole project because of that. Because here's what happens. It'll delete the folder and it won't go into your recovery. It won't go into your recycle box. So you're screwed. So I had to go in and download a program just to get some pieces of source code before it was wiped out. And that didn't work out well. Never use delete in NetBeans. Never right click and use delete. It runs amok. Totally. So delete from your folder. All right, let's test our connection and see if we got everything right. We should have our JDBC drivers installed from that initial connection link that I gave you. We have the libraries included and in use in our text connection object. Let's go ahead and instantiate the test connection object and see it behave and how it behaves. So right now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go down and I'm going to say, we called it test connection? Yeah, test connection. Okay, I don't think I need a constructor. I think we're good. Yeah, let's go back to DB tools test. Okay, this is our application, and this is where we're going to instantiate our connection. And then we're going to attempt to connect to the database. All right, and it's yelling at me. Oh, I didn't add the import. Oh well, that'll do it for me. Thank you, NetBeans. Import has been added. Now, oh, cool. I can just run send. And you know what? Let's just send. Let's just do this. I want to send in a connection string, but the thing is I'm going to have a problem with the connection string we're using for the database that we're trying to connect to. So this is going to fail utterly and completely, but that's fine. Let's just go with the default connection string, and then I'm going to show you how to go about getting the right connection string. So let's go back to here. And what we'll do is we'll take the default, which is this guy right here, and that's what we'll send. We're going to be modifying this. Remember, this we're no longer using because we're just using the connection string that we're going to send it to connect. So I'm going to go back to DB tools, put in my connection string that is incorrect and will fail utterly. And now we're going to test. Okay, so cool. All right, now we're going to do our connection object has been instantiated. Now we're going to do our step into. Let's instantiate our connection. Boom. Major problem right off the bat. Our connection string is having problems. Okay, well, what problems are you having with my connection string? Well, duh, you're not using the right connection string. So our error message would have come out. If we look at our output, we see here, error, no suitable driver found. So what it's saying is, you're using the wrong, for this connection string, you have no driver. That means we have no Derby driver installed for the database, the JDBC drivers. And so that's what we're telling it right here when we're saying, hey, open up the, and we did have Derby here, but basically it's saying there is no Derby JDBC driver. We're using MySQL, which, this is wrong with the way the connection string is done, but we're telling it, I want to use the JDBC driver for the MySQL. But again, the connection string's wrong. So how do we go about finding the right connection string for this? Well, yes, you could go to the website, but we could cheat. Let's cheat. Let's go over here to services. You can go to NetBeans, window, services, and you can look at the current servers. It's got a server viewer, and you can add a server. There's all kinds of different things that you can do with your databases and your web servers. So you see here databases right there. MySQL server at localhost 3306. So when I went to services, it automatically looked at my services on the local machine that I'm on. And since I have the Windows Apache MySQL service running for MySQL, it sees that I am that it's running on the local host at port 3306. And I can get that information from MySQL over here, but it's kind of cool that NetBeans would just go scan that and give that to you. And then what you can do is you can just hit this like connect. And one thing that you can do then is it'll help you with building your connection string down here. And there's a lot of different things that you can do in this window to figure out, hey, what is the actual connection string that I need? And let's go ahead and go here to add server. And let's see if, no, that's not working out. Let's do this. MySQL. We need to tell it a few things for the connection string. We're using JDBC. We're using the MySQL. Okay, I'm going to have to test. I'm going to have to cheat. And if you start messing around in here and you add the server, you can actually look up and connect to it with a connection string. Once this server is added to it, you can test it and start playing around with it. I think. Oh yeah, we can't do that. Okay, let's get into our connection string from the example that I've already actually think I have somewhere in here. Let's go back to our NetBeans drive. NetBeans, where are you? NetBeans, my old friend. Okay. And right now I'm looking for my old code that contains the connection string because this method isn't working. I would like, to be able to add that as a server. I think we could. Yeah, back with it. I'm going to find the folder. Ah, there we go. I believe it was this one. You know what? I'm gonna have to pause and come back and and get that connection string for you guys. I'll be right back. Okay. So I got that connection string. Remember, the way I found it was by working in this services area, and then also you can go to that connection strings website. I usually like to just connect to the database with a third party and sometimes look at the connection string they use within the program itself. So this is the connection string that we're going to use. We are going to say that essentially we're using the JDBC drivers with a MySQL server that is located on the local host of port 3306 with a MySQL folder. We don't really need this crap, so I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm pretty sure we don't need that. We should just be able to get it with this. So, hopefully, MySQL // localhost port 3306 / MySQL folder. That's the location of my local SQL server. Yours should be similar. It wouldn't be anything different. Okay, so let's set a breakpoint. And let's just see if we can connect. That's our whole goal. Just connecting. Okay, step into. Okay, roll those fingers, cross those fingers. No! Yeah, well, I knew. It wasn't, hey, something's going on with that. So, guess what? We're back to coming back with figuring out what's going on. That's all right. I had the same problems with, when I did it with previously on another computer. I wanted to go through the video with a fresh computer for all the steps that we're taking. So my next thing would be, hey, what's the actual error that we're getting? And something tells me that let's go ahead and go back to what I initially put in there for the connection string. Just because, and we'll go into there, but I'm going to chase down this issue because this one it's the same error. If we run this, we say no suitable driver found. So I'm going to make a few changes until I can actually get that connected. And then I'm going to come back and bring you guys back up to get data once again, where we've got connection string and driver issues. So I'm going to get in and play around with getting this connection working. I'll be back. Okay, we continue. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the driver files through the services window. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the window services, and right here you should see MySQL connector JDriver. That's what we installed with that first thing. Evidently I'm missing it, and the link has not been made. So I'm going to go ahead and click here and download it and connect it. Evidently we already did this, but let's make sure that I'm getting the right stuff here. I'm going to go through the process again, and hopefully it'll go ahead and match our or get it in appropriately for our project. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do is, since we already downloaded the driver, I'm just going to connect to it directly here to the jar file and find it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit connect using, and then I'm going to add the missing driver that we've installed. And I got to go down and I got to find a jar file in the program files of the the SQL package that we just downloaded from Microsoft and installed. It's the link, and it's also the link I kind of showed you. It's the first link that you install on the Canvas page, and you also can get to that link here. You probably already installed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into, I believe it's probably going to be C drive somewhere and program files. And, you know, I really want to get this on video so that you guys can see how to get everything kind of hooked up together. It does require a lot of starts and stops, though. So we're going to go to Microsoft SQL Server here. And let's go to the SDK. We don't want ODBC. What we're looking for is a jar, a JDBC jar, somewhere in our SDKs that we installed, or the SQL server that we got installed. Here is, we want the connector. There's our J connector. Here we go. Ah, finally. Thank God we found it. Oh gosh, okay. All right, let's open that up, and then we add our missing drivers. And now this is where we get our connection string, and we can test our connection for the WAMP server that we're running. So I got my WAMP running, and I can just test it from here. I don't need to do it in the code. And what I'm going to do here is just test connection. Connection succeeded. Beautiful. And we got it on video. Wonderful. Oh, that's so great, guys. So this is really all you need. You just need to be able to connect to the server. And once you have that, then you can start sending SQL commands to the database. So let's just run through this real quick and make sure that we're actually connecting to our database. And then what we'll do is we're gonna insert into the database, and then we'll read some values. That'll be part 2. And I'll continue that at a later date. You guys will see it probably quicker than me getting it done, of course. But let's test this out and make sure it works, and then we can call it pretty much good for the day. Well, at least for this video. Let's go ahead and see if we're connecting now. And that's where I got my initial connection string, was from adding it over here and testing the server in our services window. So now let's go ahead and do a step into. Okay, we'll open the connection. Okay, we've still got a problem. That means that it's somewhere in the code. And it's probably the connection string. So let's go ahead and look into the connection string that we sent it, that we tested it with. And let's go back here to this connection string. And let's say we're going to test the connection. Oh, I know what's wrong. I forgot to put in the username and password. Oh, no, that's right here. Root. Oh, no, that's not. The username is root. It's when we send it that we have to connect using the username and password. Guys, by the way, for security, you would not put your username and password right into a JavaScript. You would set up some kind of other authentication in a secure where that information is secured away from your actual, whatever. But we're just learning to connect here. That's all. I mean, so let's get that part done. So let's go ahead and go into our test connection. And what we should be doing here is right here, when we send the connection string, we also need to send in the username, root, and the password, which is just blank. And this is for the WAMP, the Windows Apache MySQL PHP server that we're running, or that I'm running. Okay, now, and see, that's how you can get around all these things. You got to kind of get something known, test it, get it going, and then you can get into your code and really kind of make it work from all the little examples okay, well, still got a problem. Guess what? We're coming back. We're getting closer, guys. Closer and closer a little bit. Oh, thank you. All right, see you in a little bit. And guess what? We're a little bit further along. Okay, we got a different error message now. It looks like it does not like my connection string. So here's what I've done. the last step that I did not do was I need to go here to the properties of the project. And then I've got to go into the libraries, and you've got to add your jar file. You got to add that the one that we added over yonder in the services. We got to add that as a library. So you're going to go ahead and click on the plus to add it, and you'll go and you'll find it. It's C program files x86 MySQL connector 8.0 blah 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 .jar. That's after you've installed it. And then I get now this error message when we step into. Notice the connection string that I added. I did make a change on a connection string. I added the coffee DB at the end. So what it's now saying is acceptable values are convert to null exception. So it's just not really liking this guy. So we're going to get rid of it. And then go from there and see kind of what's going on. Okay, so it's not happy with that. Let's do this. I think that, let's see if we get lucky. I want to do a happy dance. Okay, so it's having problems with our connection string. So again, so we've added the library, we've connected the drivers. You know, I'm gonna add it also in the run area. So I'm gonna go in here to properties, and I'm gonna add it in the libraries run. Let's remove this one. The module path, add jar folder. I'll choose that one. Say OK. It's still going to have a problem because I think we got to deal with our connection string. So then that takes us all the way back to services here, and then we go here and let's disconnect from this guy, because we can just connect right here to the database here. Let's look at this connection string again and make sure that I'm doing things correctly, and then we'll give it another shot. Other than that, it's going to be pause time again, and I'll come back and tell you the next thing I fixed to get it working. Yeah, this is typical database stuff, guys. The hardest thing is actually just to get your connection initially when you're working with them. Okay, let's just try that. Okay, so we got some other issues. I'm going to come back. We're still working on some of these things. Thank you. Result. We got it. It's done. So after all that messing around and dealing with stuff, I realized that I messed up my connection string. But the final thing that got us connected was me fixing the connection string, essentially, and of course maybe probably those last little bit of additions. So we now have notice that I got JDBC in front of there saying, hey, what driver are you going to use? We're going to use the MySQL driver, and this is the location of the database. So now I'm going to set a breakpoint, and we're going to go ahead and run it and see if this is actually connecting to our database so we can start sending it SQL commands. I'm going to do a step into, okay, and then a step over. Nice. We got it. All right. I wanted to do this dry on a machine that I hadn't done it yet with, and give you guys that process from the very beginning of not only how to do connecting to a database, but a real world example of connecting to an actual real database that would be publicly available on the web or whatnot, and something a little bit more robust. So now we can manage our database. We can manage it through here. We can connect it through the services here. You don't need to be connected to it to work through it on your application. But we're going to use this. We're going to use this project for the next video, which will be part 2, and where we're going to actually send it some data, and we're going to talk about SQL injection a little bit, and then we'll probably get some data and print it out. All right, yeah, lots of pauses and fixing up. Thanks, guys. Bye.